Hey everybody, we're back for episode 7 of the Weekly Puck Off with Brudreezy and Colt 45.
Yeah!
He just opened his Rockstar. Rock on, bitches! Woo! Woo! More red bars. And I'm gonna open my amp on the topic of energy drinks. And I've got a question for all you listeners out there. As well as a question for Budreezy. I just sprayed a little bit of amp on your phone.
That's okay. I don't mind. It's had much worse sprayed upon it.
Jeez.
That is one dilapidated amp,
it is,
by the way.
It's been pretty well destroyed. Oh, yeah, we can turn that up. Sorry, I'm in charge of the sounds this week because Connor couldn't make it out for this one. We were involved in a charity fundraiser earlier today over our lunch break, so we had to record this one after work.
That's right. We do this podcast in the back offices of our place of employ.
And you can thank us for being so dedicated to bring it to you on a Friday after work. When I have a hockey game to go see, I'm going to see the Moose tonight. Anyway, yeah, this amp can... What is going on with this? Like, this has been... Looks like it's been stepped on by Connor.
I was at the dollar store, and the side cooler where they keep the amps, that was the very last one. Because they're on sale right now, as you know, Colton, for $1.50 or whatever it is.
A loony per amp.
Yeah.
That's
what a
really
deal.
Good. And how can Lawtons get away with charging us $4 when we can get them for $1 down the hall?
There's a lot of things about the downstairs of our office building that don't make a lot of sense to me.
And that leads into my question that I had for the listeners / you right off the top of the podcast. This morning I came in and I really wanted a $3 breakfast from Subway.
Yes.
Which is pretty well my huge because you get a 6-inch sub, you get your cheese, your eggs, all the veggies your heart desires, a coffee, and it comes in at $3 plus tax.
So it's a
I
great
was
deal.
So excited for this. And I go in, lo and behold, there's a new girl. And I was like, you know what? Whatever. The sub might not be put together so nicely, but I'll cut her some slack. I'm still going to get my food. I don't care. I'm having a good morning so far.
One would think.
Ottawa won last
she
night.
knows
so
what she's doing.
Yeah, Ottawa won last night. I'm in a good mood. I go up. There are 2 patrons in the line in front of me. And they usually do 2 sandwiches at a time because there's only one of them first thing in the morning.
Yes.
So they handle 2 at once. One gets toasted while the other gets dressed up kind of deal. So once those 2 are taken care of, I'm next in line. I'm like, all right, here we go. I get to order my sandwich.
Here it comes. The big moment has arrived.
Lo and behold, here comes some man. Who apparently thinks he owns the place because he just waltzes right up, flags the girl down. She goes over to him. He asks her for a coffee. And she's like, yeah, what are you taking your coffee? And she starts serving this man before everyone else who was in line.
Some man in the lineup.
No, he wasn't in line. He came out of nowhere. He was not in line. He came from behind me, walked up, and got her to start making his coffee before she came to take my sandwich order.
So he butted.
He butted. With no backseat or no monkey butts or whatever that... Do you ever have that when you were in school?
No.
I think that might be more of a lame elementary school thing. A monkey butt was like you let someone butt and then you switch places with them in the line so that really they just butt behind you.
Okay.
This has been a terrible story. Anyway, this man came right up, walked in like he owned the place, got his coffee, and while his coffee was brewing, Subway uses a Keurig machine, so you have to wait about 2 minutes for it to finish. While his coffee's brewing, she's like, all right, and what can I get for you? And I was like, actually, I was getting the $3 breakfast. And she's like, oh, so you also want a coffee? Yeah, I did want a coffee, bitch, and now I have to wait for this gentleman, or should I even call him a gentleman? This dick in front of me in line, taking the coffee machine up for 2 minutes. Like, come on, man. Subway,
why are you
it.
serving the Budinsky?
Like, what is this? I'm really starting to think that the food court downstairs is lackluster in comparison to what I expected, because, man, we have a lot of great selections. But even just a couple days ago when I lost our shawarma bet, care to share our experience at Meza?
Colt, let me just say that I am flabbergasted to hear this. And I have had my own sort of little, mishaps down in the food court. And just to give our listeners a little bit of background here. So we work in this office building, and they've been renovating the food court for some time, and now they've got all of these new selections. Like you said, the place is like done now, but you've got these new stores down there, like Subway. So there's this Italian place called Meza, and me and Colt here made a bet earlier in the week when Vancouver played Ottawa, because Ottawa is Colt's favorite team and Vancouver is my favorite team, and the loser had to buy the winner a shawarma down at Meza. So we go down there because Vancouver beat Ottawa. Woo! It's the rock star. The rock star made me do that.
I've already done better than Connor on the soundboards just because of that.
You have. That's the funny thing.
Okay, there we go. I almost lost my place. Anyway.
Sorry, where was I?
I don't know.
So we're in the food court. We go to Meza. You buy me the shawarma.
Okay, now I've fallen back off the rails a bit.
So I get mine and you get yours, and then we get to the food court seating area, and your shawarma was a bit of a disaster.
It was awful. At least my Subway sandwich was satisfying once I finally received it today.
Yeah.
And that's definitely a lot more than I can say about this shawarma.
Yeah.
I was incredibly dissatisfied. I paid, it's a little pricey down there for their shawarmas. I don't mind paying for a good meal, which is what I was expecting. And yours looked pretty good, but mine was the soggy moisture seeping through the bread and toppings spilling everywhere.
It was a disaster.
Too much garlic spread. Overall, I almost felt sick by the time I was done eating it, just out of the sheer disgust of looking at it.
See, here's the thing, and we're going to talk hockey here in a second, but this is how you do a podcast in the year 2014, where you talk about something random.
And then somehow blend it into hockey.
And then blend it into hockey.
Which I actually, before we continue, I just wanted to mention, we are going to be slightly rebranding the pod to be a little bit more fun and a little bit less puck. So it's still going to be called the Weekly Puck Off. However, we wanted to have more fun with it. We listened back to ourselves. Yes, it's informative, and yes, we know a lot about hockey. We're the best people you could possibly ask for hockey advice, right?
Colt does.
Right, Steve?
Colt does.
Colt
knows a lot about hockey.
But when it comes down to it, our listeners don't want to hear us talk about hockey for an hour and sit there like they're in some kind of university lecture. They want to enjoy themselves. So now
they want to learn something about how to run a small business. And here's my problem with what happened at Meza that day. Wouldn't you want to know that your staff is creating your product up to your standard? If I go up to a Meza and I get myself a shawarma and I get what you got that day, I'm not going back to that place. So wouldn't you want to monitor your staff? The reason that mine was good is because I used to go to the Meza a little bit further down the street on Barrington, and so I know the girl from there, and the girl that I know she's really good at putting together a wrap. If you don't know, a shawarma is kind of like a donair or like a wrap, a pita, whatever. It's got chicken in it. So I knew she knew how to construct a wrap. That's why mine was good. You got the one that I've had some experience with too down the road that I know can't put a wrap together to save her life. And watching you eat the wrap that you got was kind of like watching what happened to Barack Obama when he first got into office down in the States in 2008. He looked really healthy and, wow, this guy's going to be good. And now he looks like shit. It's like he's just he's falling apart. He's gray. He doesn't look healthy. He looks haggard. He looks deconstructed. And that's what it was like watching you take in your wrap. It just kind of fell apart in your hands.
Oh, what the hell was that? Oh, you know what? That works. I was trying to do the other one, but I see what Connor's saying now. You press it and it cuts in halfway through what they're already saying. So
right, yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, Connor's job isn't easy.
His job isn't easy, and neither is ours. I mean, come on. In all honesty, our jobs are a lot harder than his. We actually, we used to joke about putting in lots of research. We actually, now that we realized we need to make this thing legit, we need to give you guys something to want to tune in for.
Right.
Which is why we went into such great depth about our poorly made sandwiches and lineup experiences at the food court at work. We think that is what's going to attract people to this podcast and keep them in for the long haul. And I think we did a great job of that.
I think we did too.
Woo! Yeah, so now into more exciting matters. Aside from our food court experiences, we also had some other shenanigans that we've been up to this past week regarding office things, office people, office events.
We certainly did. And so part of the podcast, as always, we like to review the week that was and kind of go over some of the more important games that happened. But in reviewing said week, Tuesday night, I, and a bunch of the guys from the office here.
Monday night.
Monday, you're right. Night before
we didn't get home till Tuesday, but
right.
Tuesday was the Remembrance Day holiday, so seeing as nobody worked on Tuesday, we decided it'd be a great opportunity for a men's night out.
Yeah.
And we did just that. We had a great men's night out, pretty good turnout.
It was a great time. Jaeger bombs were flying left and right.
Oh, they were just raining Jaeger at that establishment.
I don't think I've consumed so much Jaeger since I was at university. It was unbelievable. Every time I turned around, there was 6 on top of the bar, and what are you gonna do? You can't let the general public drink them. You gotta.
If
you
someone
gotta
puts
consume
one, if someone puts it in front of you, you best believe I'm going to be taking it down.
Bad luck not to drink it, and so yeah, I was quite sauced. And by the time I made it home, which was like 1:30, I really have not too much recollection of the cab ride home. But the next morning, I woke up, and for some reason, I had like 3 different puddles of water on my kitchen floor, and my fridge was soaked. And the leftover pizza that I had in there was ruined. I have no idea how that happened.
Hold on, sorry folks.
That's unbelievable.
That's what I was trying to say there earlier.
That fits. And the thing is, I'm not, the world's biggest drinker. I think what I sort of had in mind is that I was going to pour myself a glass of water because I knew that the hangover would be less. And I think in my drunken state, I may have missed the glass and was maybe doing a little bit of a walkabout in the
Missed
kitchen.
the cup several times and just created a series of puddles.
That's right. But
So yeah, so that was a great night, and throughout that night, there were only a couple hockey games on, but there were some really good ones throughout the past week. A couple of note, Montreal and Boston.
Just last night, 5-1 Montreal.
After another thumping of Boston the night or 2 nights prior by the Leafs, but we'll get into that in a couple minutes here. Boston. Montreal is looking like they're coming back into form.
First place in the East.
And they're really looking good, too. Price is playing well. They've got...
Are they, though? Do you feel like they are looking that good? Do you feel like they're winning because they deserve to, or are they winning because of Price? I mean, I know they looked good last night, but we know if there's one team that Montreal will always get up to play without fail, it's Boston.
And that's a team they should get up to play because they are, I know, despite your beliefs, they are one of the front runners in the East. I still believe it. They're not showing it in their record, but given the pieces they're missing and that they're still winning more games than they're losing, they're a force. And they're going to beat a lot of teams, regardless of if the teams take them lightly or strongly or get up to play them or whatever. Boston is a force.
And let's face it, Rask is not playing his best right now.
He's absolutely not. Price is on his game. Rask was definitely not.
And if you miss Krejci and you miss Chera...
Well, Rask wasn't even starting against
it was
the
Svedberg.
Habs. Yeah, Rask got lit up in the other game. Yeah, so anyway, I think Montreal, I think they look good. I know what you're thinking. The stats might show that their shots for and against are not exactly looking stellar, but I think a lot of that has to do with the small 3 or 4 game skid they went on there where they really played poorly.
Yes.
In a small sample size, that's really going to skew the overall picture. So I think save those 3 or 4 games, I'd expect their stats would be top 10 in the shot differential.
Well, Colt,
or at least in the top third of the East.
Well, Colt, here's the funny thing, because you mentioned research, and so I did actually do some, and so I broke down the shot differential, which is average shots for a game as compared to average shots against, which is probably a little bit more revealing at the end of the day, I would say, than goals for and goals against, or at least it can be. And here's a surprising thing for a team that is first overall in the Eastern Conference. Montreal shot differential is 23rd in the league, tied for 23rd. So the other team averages, on average, so far this season anyways, 2.4 shots more than Montreal per game. And their goal differential, Montreal is 20th.
And again, I think that a lot of that does have to do with the few games where they got destroyed there in the sort of mid-portion of the current state of the season. They really did not play well, let in a lot more goals, and of course shots probably correlated to more goals. So in that little particular stage there, they were probably even worse than 23rd.
They've gotten shelled a few times.
And despite those games, they've still battled back, and they're regaining their composure as a top seed in the East.
What was your take on Gonchar last night?
Gonchar, I thought, he's kind of past his prime as being a star on the power play.
40,
but
he's 40.
I think he'll do what the Canadians want him to. Now's a good time to talk about the Gonchar and Moen trade, Travis Moen to the Stars.
Yeah, let's digest that a little bit.
And Gonchar to the Canadians. Upon first glance, I was thinking, okay, this is not even worth talking about. A couple of washed up, or a fourth line player and a washed up defenseman.
Right.
But when you look at Montreal having such terrible power play stats on a team that has the potential to really go deep into the playoffs if they all get hot.
They're third to last in the league in power play.
And there you go.
8.5%.
That's not good for a team of that caliber, especially with guys like Subban and Markov already on the point. So it almost makes me wonder, was Gonchar really necessary to bring in when they clearly the point is not really the issue on their power play? Maybe it's the fact that, as we alluded to in prior podcasts, they don't really have any stud offensive guys except for Pacioretty.
Yes.
That's kind of my thought on the matter. However, having said that, Gonchar did look good. They had him out there on the power play on the first unit. I watched the first period. He was out there on the first unit with Markov, and then they kind of switched Subban in for Markov halfway through, and then cycled Gonchar back out again for, might have been Alexei Yemelin.
That's right.
They had those four kind of doing their thing, or like Sakach, or like, one of those guys that I don't really know too much about as a non-Canadians fan, but Gonchar directed a lot of pucks toward the net. Got a lot of chances going. He looked good, had his composure, and this is before he's even had the chance to settle in with his new teammates in the new system.
Here's one thing to be said about Gonchar. When he was with Dallas, he was not getting a tremendous amount of minutes. And it's hard for somebody to work themselves into the flow of a game. And they made the point last night when I was watching it. It's very true. Especially if you're 40, you got to get the blood pumping a little bit, and it's tough to really get into the flow of a game. Well, it really doesn't matter what age you are, but if you're only getting 15 minutes, or Gonchar was probably even getting less than that, I think if he does what he did in the game last night, even though he didn't have any points, he had 3 shots on net, 3 hits, and the power play had presence when he was on the ice. So if he can do that, and only that even, then it's a good trade for Montreal. Because what was Moen doing for them?
Moen was a kind of a depth guy. They've got a few other guys who are able to stir it up. You saw Weiss last night out there grinding it up. Got into a fight.
Gordie Howe, hat-trick.
Gordie Howe hat-trick. I guess, well, a little early for top cheddar, but that was going to be my top cheddar, so thanks.
Oh.
Gordie Howe hat-trick for Weiss, a goal, assist, and a fight.
Shawarma? Can I interest you in a shawarma?
The last thing I want is a goddamn mezza shawarma. Yeah, so they've got some of those guys like that. They didn't really use Moen for a whole lot of benefit, in my eyes. Gonchar has a lot more to offer to that team than Moen does, as far as I'm concerned. I think Montreal probably wins that trade. It's probably more of a short-term deal for them, where Gonchar is nearing the end of his productive career.
I agree.
But for the time being, until they get their power play sorted out, I think it's a good move for them.
I agree.
Just to help kind of spark that power play.
I agree.
Especially if he's able to settle in on that number 1 unit. Maybe he gets back into a form where he can rack up 40 or 50 points this year.
Maybe he does. Knock on wood. He stays healthy for this season. He gets the power play, some panache or whatever that they've apparently been lacking, and they get Moen out of there, because I think they wanted to give Sakach more minutes anyways. So there you go.
Yeah. So that's the Canadians.
Vegas. Should we talk about Vegas, or should we talk about more games
What was it?
here?
Oh, I made a schedule. Folks, stand by. I have a schedule. What did I have there? Oh, we wanted to talk about the Toronto versus Boston game as well, while we're on the topic of Boston getting shelled.
Oh, yes.
Montreal was the second night in a row they got pumped. The night before that, they lost 6-1 to the Leafs, who have looked good of late. That was the night Rask got chased from the net, and Svedberg came in and didn't look a whole lot better. Not so much focus on the Bruins here. What we wanted to do was talk about the Leafs, because we haven't really done too much talking about the Leafs this year.
I haven't talked about the Leafs a whole lot.
We've
no.
talked a ton about Ottawa and Calgary and Vancouver, because when Connor's here, that's pretty well our favorite teams, and all 3 of them in the early goings of the season were looking better than we had thought. But the Leafs have looked every bit as good, if not maybe better, than the Sens and the Flames.
They've been running hot.
Especially lately. So
6 of their last 8, and over the course of those 8 games, they've averaged 4 goals a game.
And
scoring.
Kessel and Bozak have been a force.
They really have.
Since they put them back on the top unit together.
Are we surprised that they're playing that well, though?
I'm not surprised that they are scoring that many goals. Kessel and Bozak anyway. I mean, I don't think they're going to keep scoring 4 or more goals per game. That's pretty much... Pittsburgh, I think, is the only team that could sustain a goal differential that, or a goals for that high.
I mean, you've talked about Bozak in the past. We like Bozak.
I like Bozak. He's a really underrated guy. He gets a ton of points on Kessel's line, and I don't think it's necessarily just because of Kessel. A lot of his points come from Kessel, kind of like the whole Kunitz-Crosby duo.
Right.
But like Kunitz, Bozak can produce on his own as well, as he demonstrated when he wasn't playing with Kessel for about a 3-game stretch there, as the Leafs kind of bounced back from their losing skid.
He actually made the second line kind of good for Toronto.
Yeah, they looked good, and I mean, not as good as the Kessel line, but when Bozak and Kessel play together, they make the magic happen, and they did that against the Bruins.
Is Van Riemsdyk entering into the status where he might soon be considered elite, do you think?
Elite? I don't know if you... Well, how do you define elite, first of all? But I guess it's all a subject best to be determined by the experts, which we can't really consider ourselves yet, until at least we get a sponsor. Any sponsors out there? Steve's drinking a Rockstar today. Fruit Punch Rockstar. Would love to have you on board. Where were we?
You were telling our listeners that we're not experts. How can you say that?
Well, we're amateur experts.
Okay,
If
that's
that-
fair. That is fair.
A bit of an oxymoron. But yes, the Leafs. I'd say yes, I am very surprised that they've been winning at the rate they're winning. Do I think it's sustainable? Absolutely not. Their puck possession stats are still rather poor, although they've gotten a little bit better.
Right.
I'd like to check in with them again maybe 10 games from now and see if they're able to maintain this. They're kind of famous for looking good in the early goings and then blowing it near the latter half of the season.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't be surprised to see them do that again. Although Bernier has been a little more solid of late. Kessel and Bozak look awesome. And they've even got a bit of defense going for them. Like when they were playing the Bruins, there was a lot of good back checking by Franson and Phaneuf, I noticed in particular. They made a couple really nice plays, which kind of go under the radar. You don't notice so many defensive plays until they blow it. So if you don't notice a defenseman, he's doing his job, basically.
Exactly.
And that's what I noticed with the Leafs the other night. I didn't see any huge chokes. I mean, every team's going to blow at the odd time here and there. But over the long haul of an entire game, the Leafs looked quite good against Boston. And I dare say I might factor the Leafs into the playoff picture now, as much as I hate to admit it as a Sens fan. The Leafs do look better than Ottawa in the past 10 games or so. And if Craig Anderson's not able to stand on his head the way he has been, I think Toronto might be the better team at the moment.
So if you were to compare the two teams, you think Toronto is better, Ottawa has better goaltending, but Toronto
I think Ottawa
has a chance to get into the playoffs, a realistic chance.
I think Toronto has one line that can score a lot of goals. Ottawa doesn't really have that, but they've got 2 or 3 lines that can score more goals than Toronto. What I'm trying to say. Toronto has a better first line,
Yeah.
as we established with Tack Attack last week.
Yeah.
But Ottawa's second, third, and fourth are better than Toronto's second, third, and fourth. As is Ottawa's defense, I think a little more solid on a night-in, night-out basis. Equally spotty as the Leafs on occasion, but I think over the long haul, the Sens might look a little better defensively. The Sens, when they win, it comes down to are they able to stick to the system and win 2-1 or 3-2. They're not going to win those games 5-4 or 6-5 like the Leafs frequently do.
Right.
And that might be why they lean so heavily on Craig Anderson, because they need him to keep the games low scoring for them, despite letting 35 shots on average per night.
There's a couple of things I think we can say about Toronto. One, as a Canuck fan, I see a lot of similarities in general between Toronto and Vancouver, because Toronto can be one of these tough teams to figure out, where just when you think they're playing well, that's when they start to blow it. Then you write them off. Then they go on a streak like this. Because remember 3 weeks ago, all you saw like on the sports media, and especially Toronto media, was what's the matter with the Leafs and sell the team and blah, blah, blah. And now here they are. They've won 6 of 8,
Yeah,
and they're
that
rolling.
pretty much speaks to the typical media in Toronto. As soon as they go on a small losing skid or somebody does something wrong, they're the worst team in the world, everybody hates them, and then all of a sudden they start winning and they're planning the parade route for the Stanley Cup.
It does.
So I don't know if you can really blame... I don't know if you can blame the Leafs so much for the negative attention they get from the media, because they've been an average team for a long time now.
It's a fact of life. If you live in Toronto, the media is always going to be that way. It's a fact of life. You live with it, and hopefully you respond to the pressure.
And it's similar in Montreal, although more so the fans than the media that really give them a hard time.
Van Riemsdyk has 14 points in 16 games. The guy's 25. If he does in fact emerge and become an elite player, which he's noticeable on the ice more and more, and I don't think it's just the Kessel Bozak show anymore. I think you have to make Van Riemsdyk absolutely.
He's been productive.
It's a 3-headed monster, not just a 2-headed monster.
Did you happen to get his stats there in your research?
Van Riemsdyk?
I can do a fact check here if you want.
Well, he has the 14 points in 16 games. Plus minus even through 16 games. One thing about Toronto is I would maybe disagree with you a little bit when you compare the other lines. I think Toronto's third line has been really good all year. Better than Ottawa's, in fact, and that's been a big reason for Toronto's success so far. Komarov, Leo Komarov, is someone that they were very happy to get back this year. Remember, he took last year off. He didn't take it off, but he was playing over in Europe. They got him back, and he is an excellent grinder. He's someone who competes hard, and he's been scoring, so he's got 11 points so far. Santorelli played for the Canucks last year, really came in under the radar, but the truth is he had a solid year for the Canucks last year. He's got 8 points. Holland's got 8. These are not earth-shattering numbers, but for a third line, fairly productive.
The thing with Ottawa, which one is their third line?
You don't know.
Is it the Legwand Neal Smith line, which is kind of more their grinding checking line that shuts guys down, or is it that new kid line that's been looking every bit as good as the tourist line lately?
The way McLean likes to switch his lines up and
Yeah.
shape it and shuffle the deck, you just don't know from night to night sometimes. Toronto's lines have been relatively solid. Some nights the third line has been their best night on the ice, particularly when they were losing. Now the top line has got going. Toronto really, really needs Kadri to emerge and have this breakout season that everybody seems to have been predicting for him. I know I drafted Kadri in my fantasy outfit, and I was pretty quick to drop him because he really hasn't. He's not even averaging 0.5 a game, I don't think, for points. They need him to take the next step and to emerge and have this breakout season, because one of the weak links with this team still is their second line.
Yeah, and of course the goalies get a lot of a lot of blame on the team, but you can only fault the goalies so much. Much like in Ottawa, they let in a lot of goals. The Ontario teams are famous for a lot of shots, letting lots of shots on goal. And there comes a point where your goalie can only do so much for you. So both teams are going to have to smarten up a little bit defensively and puck possession wise if they want to see long term results.
I mean, Bernier hasn't been bad. Do you think Kadri is going to have this breakout season now? 7 points in 16 games, and I keep seeing these little news reports when I go to mapleleaf.com or whatever, incremental steps they always talk about. But
Yeah,
do you
I
see
think
it happening with Kadri?
you can talk about it all you want. We're running a little late on this Leafs topic. We need to move on here shortly. But I think as far as Kadri goes, a change of scenery would work wonders for the kid. He doesn't really get along well with the coach, it seems. I don't know, their relationship hasn't really seemed strikingly good.
He's been in the doghouse once or twice.
They had him
that's
down in
right.
the minors for a bit there when he was perfectly capable of centering their second line.
Kind of like Gardner, yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
I
out of the
think
doghouse.
I think maybe if he gets traded to a new team, you can look for him to emerge a little more. In the meantime, he's kind of living in the shadows of Kessel, Bozak, and Van Riemsdyk, and until he gets that chance to shine and really have the opportunity to perform at the level that the fans want him to, I don't know that he's able to do it until Carlisle gives him that opportunity.
One thing's for sure, he doesn't really seem to be this type of player at this point that can generate things on his own. I mean, who is he stuck with on the second line there? Winnick. And...
More like Luzik.
Hey!
Hey!
Did
I would have played a sound clip, but you have your phone over there looking at
Oh,
your
right,
notes.
here, have that back.
Okay,
Sorry, I had
anyway,
to sound
we should
clip.
move on from the Leafs. Got a little off tangent there on Kadri, but I know it's nice to talk about all the Canadian teams, and we kind of left Toronto out of the mix. But now that they're looking like a team that might be able to win a few more games than we would expect, it's good to touch on them.
How times change. You know who's second worst on that team in plus minus? Second worst?
Second worst, I'm going to go Phaneuf.
Not for enough. This is somebody that was highly touted, and they were talking about trading him earlier in the year because everyone said he was going to be good. But if you look at his numbers and you look at his play so far this year, anything but. Second worst, he's a defenseman.
I can see him
Think
right now.
Randy
I can't think
Carlyle
of his name.
thought.
I know exactly who you're talking about. The name is eluding me.
Jake Gardner.
Gardner, right. For some reason I was thinking Gunnarsson.
Yeah.
I had the wrong G.
It's a problem with the Leafs, and it continues to be. They're young prospects. You know, they show glimpses, and just when you think that they're going to do it, then they regress. So,
Okay, I'm cutting off the Leafs. We're done.
okay.
We really the one thing we miss about producer Connor when he's gone is that he's usually pretty good to put his hand up and tell us to shut up and move on.
Well, you just did.
Well, I tried a few times and then we kept going because I got back into the conversation, but he usually manages to cut us off. Anyway, do we have time to quickly touch on the St. Louis goalies? 2 or 3 minutes?
Sure, let's.
Okay. Last night, Allen gets the start.
Yeah.
Elliott has been sort of their number one guy. I'd say getting about 70% of the starts, if I'm not mistaken. They've both looked really good. It's hard to... They're in a great situation where they're not trying to pick a goalie based on who sucks less, but on who is more of a stud, which is exactly what you want as a coach. You got two really reliable goalies you can turn to on any given night, and they'll probably win the game for you. Who do you see being the long-term solution for St. Louis, and why?
Early in the season, I predicted St. Louis to be the big surprise in the West and not in a good way, that they could potentially miss the playoffs. And now I am willing to admit that I was most likely wrong. St. Louis has won 9 of their last 10. They've got the hottest line in the league right now. Like you say, their goaltenders have been excellent. And I thought that was going to be their big weak link.
Yeah, you predicted an Elliott downfall.
Well, I kept thinking of what happened to him back in 2013 when they had to kick him down to the minors for a while because he was so horrible. And I guess that image just always stuck in my mind that this is what can happen with this guy. And then, of course, it didn't show a lot of faith that, the brain trust of that team had in Elliott when they went out and they got Miller. And then Ryan Miller didn't work out, so now we're back to Brian Elliott. Sometimes goaltenders, when they get passed over, any athlete for that matter, it can really fire them up. And maybe that's what's going on with Elliott right now, because he has had stretches in the past where he's played really, really well. So this is not new.
He has been good historically. I mean, his stats are pretty good. Like, you were showing me a printout of his stats, explaining why you thought he was due for a bad year, how he was wildly inconsistent. But his numbers haven't been terrible. Even if he regresses to his average, he's still solid enough that he could be a starting goalie on most teams.
His numbers so far this season have been Vezina Trophy worthy.
They've been stellar, but I don't know if he can maintain them quite that good, although he is playing on an extremely solid defensive team.
Yes.
No matter who you put in the net on that team, you could put Dubnyk in the net and then probably win over half their games.
And they've had him there now for a while, and they've had these defensemen now for a little while, and they always talk about how the goaltender and the defenseman have to get to know each other. That was the big excuse for why things didn't work there with Miller.
Too short of a time frame to fit in?
Yes, exactly. To get to know the tendencies of the defenseman and for the defenseman to get to know the tendencies of the goaltender. They know Elliott, and meanwhile they've got this backup in Jake Allen, who, they've been high on now for a few years, and he didn't play at all in the NHL last year. Allen didn't, because they had Elliott and then they had Miller. Mm-hmm. But he is their starting goaltender of the future. That's what they're grooming him for.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's been just as good as Elliott. So, beginning of the season, I thought St. Louis was not in a good goaltending situation. Evidently, I was wrong. They're both playing well right now. When you get these two guys that are both playing well, they can both push the other along. That kind of pressure some guys respond to.
And that's kind of like what Craig Anderson was facing in Ottawa there for a bit last year. Both goalies were struggling, and Leonard was better in the early goings of the season.
Right.
Took over as the number one for a little while, but eventually the Sens went back to Anderson, and they've kind of stayed that way since then. Leonard getting a few starts here and there. I kind of expect to see that from St. Louis as well, with Allen pushing Elliott. But until Elliott really gives the team a reason to stop trusting him, I don't think they're going to. He's looked so good. I don't think
would you?
One or two bad starts is not going to be enough for him to lose his number one job. He's going to have 2 or 3 weeks of poor play in a row before they really stop trusting him to be their number one. With a record like they have, and the track record that Elliott's had for them so far this year, I expect to see them kind of continue with Elliott for the foreseeable future as their number one guy, probably 70 to 80% of the starts.
That's exactly the way I see it happening too, unless Elliott goes through one of these major cold stretches, which 2 years ago he did go through. There's no reason to make the switch whatsoever. Elliott has more experience. His numbers are actually a little bit better than Allen's. And,
he's a little more proven.
He is.
He's been around longer.
He is, and this is a good way to get Jake Allen into the NHL where he doesn't have to deal with the pressure of being the starting goalie right now either. So There you go.
And speaking of getting things into the NHL, how about all this talk about the new Vegas team? That they might be, I don't know if they're relocating. It seems like they're looking at just creating an expansion team as opposed to relocating one, opening up a team in Las Vegas.
Well, it seems like this is pretty much a done deal.
It seems like it's going to happen, yeah. I mean, why not? From the league's perspective, they can make a lot of money in that market.
Well, Deputy Commissioner Bill Daley was down there checking out arena sites, for crying out loud. And they've got an investment group that's ready to pony up $400 million. So I'd say it's going to happen.
Money talks, right?
Money talks, especially in Vegas.
And with the NHL having a lot of teams that are struggling financially, that would certainly help overcome that burden that they're causing the rest of the league to have to deal with.
I mean, expansion is going to happen. You got 16 teams in the East and 14 in the West.
Yeah, I almost think we're getting to the point where there's too many. How many teams do you possibly need that they're going to have to start cutting back on the schedule, and I don't know. It's all a toss-up. Anyway, we didn't really want to get too much in depth with this Vegas thing other than to have a little fun with it and each of us provide a potential name for this new Vegas team.
Well, yeah. And I don't know. I mean, we know expansion is going to happen. Whether we like it or not, there's going to be more teams. That's just kind of the bottom line. The question is, do we need another team in the desert? Because why do you want to put another team in the desert? Because it worked so well with Phoenix?
I don't know.
Is that going to work?
Well, there's only so many places you can expand, and if they're getting all this money offered thrown in their faces, why would they say no to that? At least for the short term, it looks great for the league, and maybe the team does succeed.
I mean, are the locals going to support that?
time will tell on that. Anyway, I'm gonna be that guy and scurry us along here to giving a name for the franchise when they open in Las Vegas.
All right.
You want to do yours first?
Sure. So we tried to get creative and we tried to come up with some names here for a Vegas franchise, and I came up with some like the Celine Dion's or the Hoffas. But in the end, I decided to go with the Las Vegas Cacti.
That would be funny. What do you like the logo? The logo, is it like an angry cactus shooting needles at you, or
Sure.
just a straight up picture of a desert cactus?
Sure. I didn't go so far as to devise a logo, but yeah, that could be the crest.
They could fit in with the Minnesota Wild. Imagine that matchup: a picture of the wilderness and then a cactus, like
Yeah.
those two teams clashing.
Right. It could be like an episode of National Geographic.
Except for there's a bunch of hockey players beating each other up on the ice.
That's right. Bands could throw cacti out onto the ice.
Yeah,
It'd be great.
To hell with the squids in Detroit. Let's throw some cacti.
Yeah.
Maybe injure some people.
That's where tequila comes from. Did we get into the tequila on Tuesday? I can't remember. I don't think so. I
No,
think
there
it
was
just
there was
Jaeger.
no tequila.
Okay.
Just lots of Jaeger.
Okay.
Anyway, my team name, I like that, the cacti. The one I came up with, I looked through the other teams that already exist and kind of got a theme for them.
Mhm.
As you would expect, there's a lot of animals.
Yes.
You got the sharks,
Yeah.
nice and vicious.
Yeah.
Then I noticed there was a lot of animals that are like really not intimidating. I mean, the panthers are kind of intimidating. Well, like the ducks.
Not
Who's
intimidating.
intimidated by a duck? Like at least before they used to be mighty. Now they're just the ducks.
Now they're just the ducks.
I kind of blew it and didn't write down the other teams that I thought were laughable. But I'm just going to move right into my selection because this is absolutely intimidating. It's the most intimidating animal I could possibly come up with that also had some alliteration
Okay.
to go with the word Vegas.
Okay.
And that's the Vegas Velociraptors.
Oh, come on.
You see a Velociraptor coming at you, you're going to give it the puck.
But the Raptors, the Toronto Raptors, it's
Yeah, but-
too much like the Toronto Raptors.
But they're not Veloci. They're just the Raptors. And they're also a different sport. Raptors, you know what? Raptors with those short little arms, I bet you they can't even dunk. It doesn't make sense to have that as a basketball team. At least Velociraptors.
the Velociraptors.
You don't need long arms to hold a hockey stick.
Well, they help.
Yeah, so do teeth
It's
that can gnaw the opposition's throats as you score on their goalie.
I feel like it's too similar to Toronto's NBA team.
Well, you know, there's lots of teams that have the exact same name. Look at the number of teams that are called the Giants.
Or the Rough Riders.
Yeah, there's a million of those. Like, what's wrong with having the Velociraptors? Come on, man, this isn't real. If we were coming up with a real name, I don't know if cacti would really qualify either. Oh man,
Well, not bad.
good discussion. Good discussion.
Here's a question for you. Have you ever seen the movie Casino?
Casino Royale?
No, just
James-
Casino.
No,
Martin Scorsese.
I have not.
Who would you rather have for a coach? Robert De Niro or Joe Pesci?
You know, I'm really not the guy to ask because I don't know who Joe Pesci is.
Don't know.
I'm not the movie guy. See, we need Connor here for this one. I'm not a movie guy. You can ask me something about a movie, and I can almost guarantee you I have no idea what you're talking about.
How can you not know who Joe Pesci is?
This battery didn't die, did it?
No.
Oh, good.
We're
Yeah,
good.
right. We're plugged in.
We're
Right.
plugged in.
We're plugged in, folks. While we're on the topic of funny things, while we're doing that Vegas prediction, I have a video.
So De Niro, Pesci, you don't have an opinion?
I can't weigh in. I don't know them.
Maybe this will sway your opinion. De Niro was going to portray Vince Lombardi in an upcoming ESPN flick. Vince Lombardi, great football coach. At least he was. And now John Travolta's got the role. So I was going to say that De Niro has some acting experience or potential acting experience as a coach. If you're not familiar with Pesci or De Niro, I'm sure you're familiar with De Niro. But they always played mafia guys, and now they're going to be in Vegas. So that's
Maybe they'll join as management on the Velociraptors.
possibly
If
the
they're gonna-
cacti.
Okay.
You mean the cacti?
Yeah. Okay. The Velociraptor cacti.
That has a nice ring to it.
Lame. Yeah, not at all. Anyway, while we're on the topic of funny things, I've got a video here I want to show you.
Oh, is this the Ottawa Toronto
It
thing?
is.
I can't wait to see this.
I instructed Steve not to watch it as soon as I saw this on my Facebook feed because I really wanted to get his reaction of this video live on the pod. So I'm not going to be able to sync my phone to the speaker while the soundboard is linked up to it. And by soundboard, I mean the other iPhone we use in this room. So I'm just going to hold the speaker up to the microphone and get Steve to lean in.
Okay.
Oh, we've got an ad.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Brigitte et je suis directrice
Is that
chez
loud enough?
Cargill.
McDonald's, you don't make enough money.
Now, we are accustomed to the Sens Leaf Battle of Ontario being a raucous affair on the ice.
wait.
But in the
I didn't think this
stands
was a
last
news
night,
thing.
things got out of hand. Terry Marcotte here with that. Terry?
Yeah, a little bit out of hand. The Battle
See
of
the video?
Ontario taking
What's
on
it?
a new meaning last night in Section 201.
No.
And what you
Okay.
see is not fun to
Oh, wait,
watch.
wait. Yeah, here we go.
This
Here we go.
video
This
was
is it.
shot by a fan named Alex Chapman, who
Okay,
was
see this
sitting
guy?
a
Look, the
section
Leafs fan
away
pours a
when
beer on him.
Senators
Ooh,
and
pours
Leafs
a
fans
beer
got
on him.
into it,
Then get ready.
and it
Oh!
escalated fast. Chapman, like many around who witnessed it,
Did he just
believed
They tackled him off the
what was
edge.
happening.
did he just dive at that guy?
At first
On-
I was thinking, like, I
on
hope no
level
one gets
th- I'm
hurt
gonna
because,
turn
you know,
this off.
one...
Yeah, let's see.
On level 3 of the balcony, the Leafs fan got so enraged, or the Sens fan got so enraged that the Leafs fan poured a beer on his head, that he tackled a different Leafs fan, and they went over the ledge, like over the third balcony of Canadian Tire Center.
That is awesome.
Let-
Or
let's-
was everyone all right?
Let's
Were there
watch that
any
again.
injuries?
I didn't really.
want to see that again.
I didn't really follow up, but these guys, they're probably fine.
Leafs fans got into it, and it escalated fast. Chapman, like many around who witnessed
So
it,
for,
my
for those of you
goodness.
that, we don't have a video portion. So for those of you that
He
are
dove-
listening,
he dove head first.
you see a Leafs fan kind of walking up the stairs, pour a beer on the Sens fan, who was kind of chirping the other Leafs fan. So there's two Leafs fans. One walks by and pours a beer and then takes off. The Sens fan takes exception and starts fighting the other Leafs guy. And within seconds, they're Superman diving off the third balcony,
Head first.
head first. Yeah, like they. I kind of want to know.
Kamikaze.
I want to know if they
The
landed on
kamikazes.
people below them. Like if they landed on people below them, I'd be more concerned about those people than the people who were fighting.
Right.
Because the people fighting had to come and, like, if you're gonna fight by the edge of a balcony in Canadian Tire Center, you're going to get hurt. The people below have no idea it's coming. All of a sudden, it's raining 200-pound men holding beers, yelling at each other over a hockey game.
It's always the innocent bystander that gets hurt.
Yeah, much like in drunk driving accidents, it's never the driver that dies.
This would be a drunk diving accident.
Oh, wait, soundboards. Yep.
Save on goal! Great save on
There.
goal! Great save on goal!
I love you, Jim Houston. You're the best. What do we got coming up here?
Great save, Luongo. Yeah, so that's just a little... see, this is part of our rebranding process. We didn't used to have exciting audio portions of YouTube videos that you can't see.
You know what we should? You know what we should do right now? We should get Noggs in here.
I'll give him a call. While we're doing that, there's another topic we could start talking
Yeah,
about.
let's
maybe?
get into the next topic and then get Noggs.
That was
here
gonna
for
be
the
a bit
great-
of a long
the great
topic.
the Great Senator Challenge. Bry the Fat Guy.
Yeah, so that's all we have left other than that longer topic that we're going to get to in a minute here. So let me just call Brian.
What's that? The Canucks or the Penguins? Or Crosby?
Oh, we're talking about the Canucks. Yeah, talk about the Canucks. You talk about the
Okay.
Canucks while I get Brian in here.
Okay, well, just quickly, Vancouver is, or they were, top seed in the West, which obviously I didn't lack to be excited about that. Now it's Anaheim, but the question that's on everybody's mind is this an anomaly for Vancouver, or can they keep this up? And what people seem to forget is just 3 years ago, this team made it to the Stanley Cup Finals, and just 2 years ago, they won the President's Trophy for best record in the NHL. So the question is, has this year's team, compared to the team of just 2 or 3 years ago? And can we compare the two? And yes, we can, because there's still a lot of players on this team that were around back then.
There are a lot of similarities, and with Tortorella out, the Sedins are really coming back to the level of productivity that we saw in the past.
So can Vancouver compete for a cup again? Let's look at goaltending.
And here's Brian. Hey! We're going to get back to that other topic in just a minute here.
Okay.
We've got Brian in.
Hide your kids, hide your wives, let's go, here we go.
So just in case you were wondering, Brian did not get fired a few
Right.
weeks ago. He hasn't been on since because we didn't want to test his break schedule before, but now we're doing this on a Friday, so he's actually available without getting scolded by management.
That's right, because 3 weeks
I
ago
got
we had him on here and things
scolded.
didn't go as well.
Okay, I'm just
They
going to
put-
slide the mic over.
I'm sorry. They put me on a small stool and spanked me for 4 hours.
Wow. Sounds like fun.
And gave him,
Can I sign it?
they made him work a day without pay.
So Brian's smart, and he knows a lot of facts and a lot of trivia, and you're a
That
Senators
guy,
fan, so we
eh?
thought it would be fun
He
if...
is, he's the fact guy. And what we're going to do this week, we came up with a game where, just try to keep the arms off the table because this mic picks up the whole, or at least like keep the arms on the table, but just don't pull a Connor and rock it. Don't rock, don't rock the boat, don't rock the jukebox. Yeah, so
do what you want. Do what you want.
instead of doing facts with Brian, what we're going to do is a trivia game hosted by Boudreezy.
That's right.
He's going to ask us each a series of questions.
Senators
going-
related question because you're a super fan number
Yeah.
1 for the Ottawa Senators.
This week is going to be the Ottawa Senators edition, where where I try to
Whoa.
beat Brian at Ottawa Senators
What's
facts.
Is that a really bad fart? It's really bad.
Just give that a minute in this small 6x6 room. Thanks for that.
Yeah,
Haven't
let's
had
just
my
let that percolate.
Have not had my evening poop.
Jeez.
Man, what did you have for lunch?
It was what was it? Fucking or friggin'. Jeez, what was it? Oh, it was a roast beef sandwich with pickles.
Roast beef sandwich with pickles.
My
Well,
God.
it smells lovely.
Thank you.
Anyway, back to the explanation of this. It's going to be
His best of the game.
no, that's his worst of the game. It's going to be a series of Sens questions. This week,
That's
I'm
right.
going to try to dethrone the fact guy
That's
as a Sens fan. See if I can answer more questions correctly than him.
That's
Our
right.
answers will be hidden from each other. We're going to write them down, and then at the end of the game, we'll reveal them and see who got the most correct.
That's right. Now, what are you guys playing for here? Like, who gets what if you win? What's the
pride.
bet?
Just pride.
You pride.
No.
Pride. An amp.
No.
An amp is on
An
the
amp.
line.
Okay, I like that.
Okay.
An amp. We'll
An
go
amp's
with,
on the
we'll
line.
go with an
So
amp.
winner gets an amp.
Energy
Okay, so
drink.
here are 5 questions. And are you guys ready?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
Let's get this going.
Question 1. What year did the Ottawa Senators enter the NHL? What was their first NHL season?
Are we talking the year the team formed or the first year they played?
Their first actual season.
Fuck. There's my producer Connor with a lovely insight.
Everybody.
Some explicitives.
With his
Okay,
typical
are we,
contribution.
should we
to the
reveal them
podcast.
one by one so that the fans aren't bored for the next 5 minutes?
Okay, so,
Yeah.
so this is the first season in the NHL.
What was their
the
first
first season that they played.
The modern iteration of the Ottawa Senators, not
Oh.
the early
Okay.
1900s edition.
I know both. So.
Okay, so are we,
Okay.
how
Brian-
do you know
Brian
this?
knows
Did you
both.
study?
No, I just know.
You shouldn't know
He
this.
just knows. That's why he's the
Okay,
fact
so
guy.
do we need the 2-year combo, as in like,
Yeah.
like for example, 62, 63?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah.
This
You-
year
you
is
do just
2014, 2015.
Yeah, you need that.
Okay.
You need that superlative.
That
Okay, I'm ready to
that
reveal.
part is still lingering. By the way.
Oh no, it's a curveball.
I'm ready to
Or
reveal.
more of a knuckleball.
Okay.
Everybody ready?
Go-
Are
go.
both of us ready?
Are we not doing?
I think we should do one by one just because otherwise we're writing things down for 5 minutes.
Exactly.
and- you know what I mean? All right. And reveal. I've got
92, 93.
Oh!
Oh!
Is that the answer?
That is.
Come on!
There we
Come!
go.
Baby!
I've gotten at least one. I'm impressed.
There's his best of the game. That's unbelievable.
Okay, next question.
Great save, Luongo.
When Ottawa traded Danny Heatley to the San Jose Sharks, who did they get in return? What was the full measure of their compensation for Danny Heatley?
I think I know this one. I mean, they got a lot in return for the All-Star.
You guys ready?
They got a lot.
There was definitely some different aspects to the package that they got from.
I think I've got it, but I'm not sure.
All right,
I say
Okay.
I'm about 60% confident.
Reveal.
Who have you got there?
Jonathan Chichu and money.
I've got Jonathan Chichu and Milan Mikalik.
It's Chichu, McCulloch, in a second round draft choice. You're closest.
I'll give it to you.
Woo!
Okay, nice.
I didn't realize there was a pick involved.
Nice. Okay.
That's unbelievable.
Ah, fuck your mother.
2-1.
Jesus.
That's a little uncalled for.
We're gonna have to beep that.
Two-
48, 40.
Okay.
I'll make a note for you.
Third question. In 2007, Ottawa made it to the Stanley Cup Finals. What did former Calder Trophy winner Daniel Alfredson do to jinx the Senators prior to the 2007 Finals? He did something that typically isn't done.
Yeah, he.
And it may very well have jinxed them and caused them to lose to Anaheim. Not pointing any fingers, though.
All right. Got your answer? Ooh, he's scratching things out over there. Final Jeopardy. Let's go. You got about 3 seconds
Yeah,
left on the
2
song.
seconds. 2 seconds. Oh, I should be playing this stuff.
Do you have that song?
No.
All right. So you have one.
All right, turn it off. You were too late. I said he touched the conference championship trophy.
You're absolutely right.
Okay, I was wrong.
What did you say?
I said he fired a slap shot at Matt Sundin.
And he did
in
too,
his
but...
career.
I thought he fired a slap shot at Chris Pronger in the Stanley Cup final.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, I'm
Well,
up
Colton, you
3-1.
were right. You're up
I'm up
3-1.
3-1. If I get one more right, I've locked up this fact. Whatever the...
I know more of the old facts about the.
Yeah, he knows all the impressive, like, who was 9th in all-time assists. Like, who knows that?
I don't know that.
Okay. What season did the Ottawa Senators accumulate the most amount of points in team history? And bonus question,
Points
how
is
many
in, like,
points?
like wins and overtime losses kind
Points.
of deal?
Straight up points.
So, like not total player points, but, like, team points.
Team points.
Like 95 or whatever in the season.
Right.
Okay.
Team-related points. What season did they record the most? And if you can get the amount,
Pretty
then
sure
it's
they
a
did
bonus
it.
question.
Pretty sure they did it twice. Same amount.
Oh, see, he's already ahead of me.
Brian
Is
needs
it
to
a trick
get back
question?
in it.
If there's 2 of them, do I get credit if I just get one?
It's not a trick question.
I'm gonna go with this one actually. Okay, I got my answer.
Brian?
It was the 2002-2003 season.
Yes?
They had 113 points.
Yes?
I said 2004, 2005.
Nope.
Oh, baby! Right back in it.
So 3-2 now.
They also recorded 113 in 05, 06.
Yeah.
That's right.
3-2.
3-3. That was
3-3, that was a bonus
113 was a
point.
bonus question.
Oh, see, I didn't hear that part. I didn't write down a number.
You weren't listening.
That's tough.
I
Man.
blew it.
Yeah.
Okay, so 3-3.
A bonus question. What is that?
Here's,
it comes down to
here's the definitive question right
Game
here.
7 overtime. Oh,
Wow.
get that sound clip queued up for whoever wins here.
Okay.
This is just gripping podcasting for everyone involved.
Okay.
Me especially.
The sweat drips.
All right.
I've got a lot on the line here.
Who is Ottawa's all-time leader in plus-minus?
Oh, come on.
All-time plus-minus leader. 92, 93 onward.
Oh man, I really don't know.
Well, think. Brian's writing feverishly here.
I want to say it's a guy
The
that
fat guy seems to know the answer.
I almost want to say it's a guy who's only played for them for like 5 or 6 years.
Well, could be.
See, the obvious guess is Alfredson, but I don't know.
There's no fucking discussion while you make
I
your
don't
answers
know.
here. Jeez.
I'm trying to make it interesting. I'm letting our fans know my thought process behind my
The
answers.
suspense is really building.
See, I just have to say one thing. If it wasn't for that bonus question I didn't hear about, I'd be guaranteed at least an overtime loss.
we can cut back here. We can go back and hear it if you want to.
No.
If you're
no,
that
no,
much.
no,
of
no,
a-
no, no.
Okay.
Because no, that's cheating. I blew it. I blew it.
Well, you can redeem yourself right now. What's your
Yeah.
answer?
Okay, I haven't written one down yet, but I'm going to come up with an answer right now.
Okay. Come on.
Big question here. Big question. Big question. Okay, I'm gonna answer. I really think this is a stupid answer, but you got to risk it to get the biscuit.
That's what they say.
What do you got there?
I went with Albertson. He has got every other fucking.
What do you got?
I said Wade Redden.
No way!
Wade!
I had it written down.
Redden! Oh my
Wade
god!
Redden.
Yes! Yes!
No way.
See, I picked
Well
a
done,
guy.
sir.
I picked a guy who left the team before they started sucking.
Well, that was riveting, you guys.
That was good.
Great
Colt,
question.
well done, sir.
Thank you.
Good game, man. I'll take my
Alright,
amp on
well
Tuesday.
played.
Thank you.
I'll
Thank
take
you.
my amp on Monday or Tuesday.
You will, yeah. All right, listeners, go fuck yourself.
Thanks for coming in there, Brian. Can you turn off? What is this we're listening to? All the sounds going one by one. See you later,
No,
buddy.
not normally a producer.
Thanks for
See you,
coming
buddy. Brian
Brian,
Noggle, ladies
folks.
and gentlemen. Well, that was fun.
He's back. He hasn't been fired, and we've got 5 minutes to wrap things up.
All right.
So our topic that we wanted to talk about the longest is in turn going to become. You know what? Let's save it for next week.
Okay.
TAC was going to come in for this. We forgot about our charity fundraiser earlier in the day.
Okay.
Had to take a shortened lunch break and didn't have time to get TAC in here. So we'll save that for episode 8. I think might be the way to go.
Sure.
Because that's not a topic that is going to be irrelevant next week. It's
Way
kind of a long
to
term.
get that last question, by the way.
I really came up big.
because that was just
Oh, man,
completely.
I'm impressed with myself. I can't believe I just beat the fact guy at his own game.
I thought he had you. I really thought he had you when he got
I had it narrowed down to
the
Alfredson,
season
Redden, or
totals.
Spezza. But I figured, Spezza really sucked at plus minus the last 5 or 6 years.
Oh yeah.
Then I was like, well, you know who else probably would have had shitty plus minus as well before he went to Detroit? was
Mr.
Alfredson.
Steele taking down the fat guy and legitimizing his
Taking-
claim
taking
as a
down-
true Senators fan.
Taking down the 300-pound fat guy. Oh, fact guy. Okay. Okay,
Who
so
also had a bad case of flatulence. Maybe it was the roast beef that kind of, inhibited his ability.
okay,
to get
so
that last
if we're
one.
gonna save that topic for next week, maybe we can give people sort of a glimpse into what we will be talking about.
Yeah, let's do that.
We can finish up your Vancouver thing here shortly, and then get into Top Cheddar and You Blew It. But next week we're going to feature TAC, and we're going to talk about Sidney Crosby and the Penguins and whether they have what it takes to win another championship with the team they have. It's been 6 years now since they've won the Cup, and they haven't really been terribly close. Haven't even made the finals since they won. So interesting topic to discuss. Is Crosby the real deal? Probably yes, is the general consensus. But does he have the supporting cast to help Pittsburgh?
Probably yes.
Well, that's best saved for next week, for episode 8. We're going to keep everyone on the edge of their seats. We know how I feel about Crosby after my story about the cab driver that time, ranting on about Ovechkin.
Oh, who could forget?
So, that's a little sneak preview into next week's topic on Tack Attack.
Well, let's save the Canucks for next week too, then, because I wanted to do a little bit of an analysis between who they are now and who they were back in 2011, just to see if they even have the potential to compete for a cup. As ludicrous as that might sound to a lot of people, especially those that predicted that Vancouver would not make the playoffs this year, which there were a lot. I
Myself
may have even
included.
been one of them.
I was one of them as
I
well.
might have been. I know you were.
Yeah. All right. So
Could
we'll,
they
we'll save
maybe
that for
not
next week.
just make the playoffs? Could they actually have a chance to make another run?
And tune in next week to hear more about that, as well as, is Pittsburgh the real deal? As for this week, we
Top
might,
cheddar.
we
Top
might be
cheddar,
able
you
to
blew
wrap
it.
this up in under an hour for the first time in like 4 weeks.
We got to do top cheddar. You blew it.
Yeah.
No?
Well, yeah, we will.
Okay.
So we're gonna go over an hour, I guess. Okay.
Okay.
So, let's start off with You Blew It, because mine's a bit quicker than the Top Cheddar. I don't know about yours.
Mine too.
Okay, so You Blew It. I've got, I know you all probably know what I'm going to say. Connor McDavid, as much as I love the guy, looks like a great player, is a great player. He's going to be a force in the league. Whoever gets him is going to become a contender almost instantly. He got himself into a fight and...
A scuffle. Was it with the Leaf and the Senators fan up there in the
Yeah,
mezzanine?
that was McDavid.
Was that him diving
That
head
was
first?
McDavid tumbling off the third tier of the Ottawa Senators Canadian Tire Center. But no, he followed through into the glass, punched the glass, fractured a bone in his hand, and
That's
he's
right.
out 5 to 6 weeks. Might be back in time for the World Juniors. They're projecting that he should be. Will he be the same afterwards? I guess only time will tell. But I'd have to say, Connor McDavid, you blew it. You were on pace for records. Could have possibly even been on pace for Lemieux's all-time scoring record in the CHL. Now that's out the window, obviously. And, I mean, we all would love to have you back in time for the World Juniors on Team Canada. But in the meantime, you blew it.
Man, it's hard to say that he didn't blow it, isn't it? Because if you're a star player, you're not supposed to fight.
You're not supposed to fight. At the same time, no one stuck up for him. He is young. Young guys are going to make mistakes. He'll learn from it. In the long term, does anyone really care about the junior scoring records? No.
It's Lemieux, by the way, who has the
Mario
record.
Lemieux has the record.
Mario Lemieux. I just love it. This guy loves to compete, and I love guys that show a lot of passion out there. And he's not afraid to throw down. And I know he shouldn't have done it. And
He looked
I
okay
don't
in the
disagree
fight.
that he is you blew it material, because he shouldn't have been fighting, and now he's out. Now he broke his hand. You don't do that. But you gotta love his willingness to get in there and brawl.
He's got some grit, which is nice to see as well.
Here's my you blew it. Svedberg, Boston's backup goaltender, for allowing Dale Weiss to score on him on a penalty shot. That had to be embarrassing. Had to be.
Yeah, not exactly an offensive threat, most would think.
And I didn't think it deserved to be a penalty shot anyhow. Dan
It was a bit
O'Halloran and Eric
questionable,
Furlat, it was a bit of a questionable thing, but Svedberg, you blew it. You allowed Dale Weiss to score on you.
Which leads into my top cheddar for the week, which was actually Dale Weiss not only scoring on that penalty shot, but having that be part of a Gordie Howe hat trick, which we touched on earlier. Fight, goal on that penalty shot, and assist on the Pacioretty goal,
And
Gordie
who's-
Howe hat trick, and also Tarasenko on the same night had a Gordie Howe hat trick.
Yes, that's right.
Tarasenko in a fight, ladies and gentlemen.
That's
I mean,
right.
the goal and assist doesn't come as a huge surprise. He's been a force.
Gordie
And
Howe hat trick.
I'm starting to think that maybe you might have picked the right guy in that Nugent-Hopkins versus Tarasenko debate. I'd like to see a couple more weeks out of Tarasenko first, but man, does he look good.
That line is killing it.
And for the second straight
Just
week,
killing it.
the second straight week after I took Nugent-Hopkins over Tarasenko in that debate, I have given Tarasenko top cheddar in back-to-back podcasts. So that goes to show how
what does that say?
That
Yes.
goes to show how confident I am in my own choice.
And
Nugent-Hopkins.
speaking of that line, my top cheddar is one of the other components of that line, Yuri Laterra, who had a natural hat trick against Buffalo earlier this week. The first St. Louis Blue to do that since way, way back in '98 when Al McInnes did it. And that line, Tarasenko, Laterra, and Schwartz, every guy on that line has a hat trick so far this season. All three of them have a hat trick. In fact, St. Louis is the only team in the NHL to have at least 3 players with a hat trick this season. And they're all on that line.
They're all on that line.
So just to put into perspective how good that line has been.
And Laterra was a guy that you scouted out before he even came over from Finland.
Yeah, they were.
As soon as you heard that the Blues had been talking about signing him, you said, watch out for this guy as a sleeper in the draft. And I was thinking, yeah, maybe. But it turns out he's actually, I think he's the real deal.
Well, he definitely is. Because he
looking
put
like
up
it.
good numbers for the KHL. And guys don't typically score at the same rate in the KHL that they do in the NH. But, he played with Tarasenko over there, too. And
Yeah,
that's the big thing.
That's huge.
So in that sense, I look good. I don't look so good when I predicted St. Louis to not get to the postseason. Because I think I'm finally going to officially back off.
Maybe it's because
prediction.
Maybe it's because you didn't foresee that line becoming their most effective line.
Well, I don't think anybody did.
I don't think so. Anyway, I think that was a great podcast. That was well
too. I
organized.
had a great time.
We didn't get to our big Pittsburgh debate, but that's probably best saved for when Tack's here anyway.
Sure.
So I'm just going to cue up our outro music. Oh. There we go. Anyway, we'd like to thank all of our sponsors. Oh wait, we don't have any. But thanks everybody for tuning in. Follow us on Twitter at Weekly Puck Off. Send us any questions, concerns, comments you might have. We'll be sure to address all of them. We get a lot, but we'll go through them all. weeklypuckoff@gmail.com is where you can reach us. Also tune in on YouTube to our channel, which is The Weekly Puck Off. We post all of our episodes on there. Anyway, in the meantime, thanks for tuning into episode 7, and stay tuned. We give you a sneak preview into what's to come on episode 8. And yeah, thanks everybody.
Puck on, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Puck on. So we puck off.
Today's Puck on.